So many of the things that people use to try and help them sleep inadvertently are actually harming and hurting their sleep. Two good examples are probably alcohol and marijuana. Many people will have a little nightcap in the evening and they think that having a drink in the evening helps them fall asleep. It's actually not true. Alcohol is a class of drugs that we call the sedatives, and sedation is not sleep. So what you're doing when you drink in the evening is actually just knocking out your cortex, and you're going into this sedation-like state. You're not going into natural sleep. There are two other problems with alcohol, unfortunately, and I'm so sorry to be giving you this bad news, but firstly, alcohol will actually litter your sleep with many more awakenings throughout the night. And so you won't feel restored when you wake up the next morning by your sleep. You won't feel refreshed. The problem and the danger is that many people don't remember waking up so much throughout the night when they've been drinking. So they don't realize that it was the alcohol disrupting their sleep. They don't put two and two together. The final thing about alcohol is that it's very good at blocking your REM sleep, or your dream sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. And we know that REM sleep is essential for a variety of functions, including emotional and mental health. And so alcohol will actually remove that dream sleep, or it will decrease it significantly, blocking that essential critical sleep.
So he's not saying to stop drinking alcohol completely, so don't freak out. But what he is saying is that if you drink alcohol late at night, close to bedtime, it's probably going to disrupt your sleep, and you're not going to be getting as good sleep as you think you might be, okay? And I'm not an idiot. I know that drinking at night is probably the most common time for people to drink. So don't think that I'm not saying, okay, you're never going to drink at night again. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is he is trying to give you some information so that you can apply it to your life, so that if on the weekend, let's say you stop drinking maybe 3 to 4 hours before you go to bed so you can digest it properly, and then maybe drink a little more water so it's not disrupting your sleep. All right, these are things that you can just try to apply to your life. You don't have to completely cut it out, but it's something that you can actually start to game plan more of, instead of just saying, you know what, I'm going to drink super close to bedtime and I really don't care what it's going to do to my sleep. Whereas maybe you still like to drink, and you can do the best of both worlds and try to implement both of those things in your life. So I'm going to stop. This is a tough subject because I know that drinking is just part of some people's lives. So if it is, try to integrate these principles or habits of not drinking too close to bedtime, and it's going to help with your sleep. That's all.
Now, I've been interested in blood glucose for a little while, and interested in what you can do to sort of reduce the spikes in your blood glucose. And one of the things that I'd read fairly early on is the order in which you eat your food can have an impact on your blood glucose. If you eat kind of proteins first, you'll reduce the spike. So I thought I'd do a simple test. Before I cooked the porridge, I just cooked up a couple of eggs and a little bit of butter. Scrambled them up in the pan, ate them, and then cooked the porridge. That little bit of protein at the start had a fascinating impact on my blood glucose. There's barely a spike. And to me, that was super, super, super interesting.
You got to admit that that's pretty interesting, that the order in which you eat your food really matters when it comes to blood glucose levels. All right. So how you can apply this to your life is, when you're eating a meal, try to start with something that's very high in fiber, or, high in protein, not high in carbohydrates. Because when you do that, your body actually takes longer to digest the fiber and the protein than it would the carbohydrates, therefore not spiking your blood glucose levels as high. And this is especially important in the morning times, because a lot of times we have things like muffins or scones or pancakes, or just anything that's super sweet in the mornings is going to spike your blood glucose levels really high, and even the sugary caffeinated drinks. So you have to watch out from drinking those, all right? I'm not saying to never drink those, but don't start your day with those types of sweets, because it's going to spike your glucose levels, your blood glucose levels very high, and then you're going to crash. And so start with something that's a little more bland, more fiber, more protein, and I promise you, your blood glucose levels are going to be a lot more even keel, and it'll be, healthier for you. So that's all I got.
I think the basics are always the most important place to focus. And a lot of people, to your point earlier about your friends who have all these supplements, but they're not even just doing the basic stuff, like eating a healthy diet or sleeping enough, That's the biggest mistake, frankly, that people make in my experience as a clinician for over 10 years. I think it's easy to like chase the shiny objects and get really interested in like, supplements and like, more kind of advanced biohacking type of strategies and not pay enough attention to the core basics that actually are going to make the biggest difference. So for me, that's like if we think of the 4 pillars, that would be diet and nutrition, nutrition intake, sleep, stress management, and physical activity.
It's really nice to hear someone like Chris Kresser, who's a leader in the health and wellness space, talk about focusing on the basics when it comes to living a healthy lifestyle. Because I think a lot of people are looking for that silver bullet or that magic pill that's going to make them automatically healthy. And to be honest, it's just not out there. And what he's saying is, once we dial in our exercise, sleep, stress management, and eating nutrient-dense food, we're going to have to like try to do those things constantly. You're never just going to automatically know exactly how you're supposed to do those things, and it's not always going to It's not always going to work perfectly. So that's the tough part. Is it takes time to understand your body. It takes time to understand why things are happening. And most of the time people are like, I want the silver bullet. I want the magic pill that's just going to make me feel better. But it's just not out there. And we have to start focusing on sleep, nutrient-dense food, exercise, and stress management more than we are looking for the magic bullet. Okay. So I love the fact that he was harping on those things, and that's what we should all be focusing on.
And studies in both mice and humans have shown that cold water immersion increases levels of PGC1 alpha in skeletal muscle. PGC1 alpha is a protein that regulates mitochondrial biogenesis, the production of new, healthy, young mitochondria. Increased mitochondrial biogenesis is an adaptation to exercise and is associated with greater aerobic capacity and a lower risk for developing many diseases, such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and type 2 diabetes.
All right, if you can just say PGC1 alpha after that video, give yourself a gold medal, okay? What Rhonda Patrick is trying to say in simple terms is we want to increase mitochondrial biogenesis. And how you do that are 2 simple ways: exercise and cold exposure. And why we want to do that is because the more mitochondria you have in your body, the higher aerobic capacity you have, okay? And what that associated with is healthier living, okay? So the more you exercise, the more you expose yourself to cold therapy, the more mitochondria you'll have in your body and the healthier you'll be, okay? Simple as that. Exercise, get cold exposure, and you're doing yourself a solid.